Hey kids, what time is it?
Time for Gezintahait Street.
It is time for Gezintahait Street, and the story for tonight, whoever doesn't know, we're coming up on the month of Elul, a very special month, the month before Rosh Hashanah. And the previous Rebbe tells what it was like in Lubavitch in the Shabbos, which is coming up, that blesses the month of Elul. And he told it to us in a talk on Pesach. And on that talk, the previous Rebbe described the spiritual level that was felt in Lubavitch on the Shabbos, which blessed the month of Elul. That's the Shabbos coming up. Even though the day was bright and sunny, like a summer day, the atmosphere had changed. One could smell Elul in the air and sense a Tshuva spirit in the wind. Tshuva means return to Hashem. Our Rebbe asked two questions. He says, a Rebbe's words are exact. And not only the words, but even the time of a teaching is appropriate and tailored to the message. Since this talk was given on Pesach, there must be an interconnection between Pesach and Elul. But how can there be a connection? They're two opposite things. Pesach embodies an arousal from above. Hashem took us out of Egypt. And the arousal from below is encapsulated in the term, my beloved means Hashem is to me, meaning us. When Hashem took us out from the 49 gates of impurity. Elul, on the other hand, embodies an arousal from below, where we approach Hashem from a stance of tshuva. I am to my beloved. It starts with I am to my beloved, not my beloved is to me. So it's opposite things, Pesach and Elul. What can we learn, the Rebbe says, from the previous Rebbe's description of the spiritual manifestations in Lubavitch on the Shabbos that blessed the month of Elul? The Rebbe answers that accomplishing Hashem's desire in Elul depends on our service. Nevertheless, a revelation of light from above is needed to allow us to accomplish that service. And that's the light from Pesach. That light is generated from Pesach. What is it? It's the revelation of the 13 attributes of divine mercy, which shine in the month of Elul. That's what it says. It was a bright, shiny day. Meaning that our ability to approach Hashem comes about because Hashem gives us the strength and the ability to accomplish it. The previous Rebbe gave the talk on Pesach. It's not just he was describing what happened. He gave that talk to facilitate the flow from above, which would occur on the Shabbos, which blesses Elul. That Shabbos, all the aspects of Elul are drawn down, including the 13 attributes of mercy. Our Rebbe answers the second question regarding the previous Rebbe's description of the Shabbos before Elul by breaking it into two segments. It was still a bright sunny day, like the summer, but there was a change in the air. The bright sunny day represents the arousal from above, which hints to the revelation of the 13 attributes of divine mercy. The godliness which is higher than limit, which is included in the ineffable name of I. Now, the service of Elo, which is the arousal from below, it's our work, what we do, is encapsulated by the description of there was a change in the air. And that change in the air encompassed a smell of Elo and the stirring of a wind that would bring us back to Hashem, a Tshuva wind. Air is internalized from every breath that we take. The air that was breathed contained the smell of Elo and was moved by a Tshuva wind. And these spiritual benefits are available to everyone who enters the environment of Elo. All you have to do is want to connect with Hashem, and you get all these levels. And what is this spiritual benefit? It says the king is in the field. So when he's in the field, we can access him, and the access is granted to everyone. Each one is greeted with a happy and a smiling face. This stuff of being able to connect to Hashem is not connected with hard work. It's available and can be internalized by every soul in Lubavitch with every breath. The detail of smell indicates that through tshuva, returning to Hashem, we are worthy of the revelations of Mashiach, about whom it said, he will judge through smell. The wind indicates the essence of tshuva, the return of the spirit of the soul to Hashem, from whom it had originated. We want Moshiach now.
Amen.
All you have to do is want to connect with Hashem now in the month of Elul, and it happens automatically. Hashem gives you the ability to do it. The king is not in his palace with a whole bunch of guards guarding him. He's out in the field. He's out in the place where he's available to each and every one of us. Do we want to have a nigun now?
Not now.
Huh?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Missing the missing Easter.
He's messing with the strings over there.
by learning how a person's mind works, Rabbi Mordechai will be able to relate to the supernal man on the throne, will relate to Hashem by learning how our own mind works. In learning mathematics, you have to know that there are 10 numbers in a progressive chronology from 1 to 10.
Bitzalel,
Yeah.
didn't we do this part already?
Yeah, we did it, but it's an important thing to go over it until it's understood clearly. And just by going over it once does not necessarily mean Gimel Aleph that we'll understand it clearly.
Would you like
Therefore, this is the 4th time we have done this. First, I did it, and then Gimel Aleph did it, and then Marvin did
Yeah,
it,
Marvin did it.
and now I'm doing it
Would
again.
you like to quiz me on it?
Great.
What?
Would you like to quiz me on it?
Yeah,
So is this part of like the process of Eon going over and over and over?
that's called Iyun.
Oh, very good.
That's part of the service of Chassidus, is because the service of Chassidus is to internalize godliness through our brains. And the only way you can do it is by going over it until it's understood clearly, then it can be internalized. In geography, there's 4 directions. In numbers, there's 10. And without these axiomatic postulates, Gimel Aleph, you know what that is? Axiomatic postulates?
Yeah, I ate too much chunk last week and I had a bad case of it.
2 times 2 is 4.
Oh, it was something different than I was thinking actually.
And you don't have to understand it. That's the way it is, and you memorize. Without those, it's impossible to understand the subject, or at least very difficult. Still, they're grasped and fixed in the mind. So too, in the study of Chassidus. How many spirits are there, Gidon?
There are 10.
10 spirits, correct. And how many worlds?
There are four.
There are four worlds. He's got the action. And it's worthwhile to take the time to integrate these axioms into our knowledge base. The four worlds, the first and highest of those worlds is the world of Atzilus. The world that is emanated from Hashem, and it differs from the three lower worlds. Why? How does it differ from the three lower worlds?
Tzilut is pretty much just God.
Right? And the three lower worlds are separate creations. Correct.
More and more degrees of separation
Yeah.
from pure godliness.
Now, while the three lower worlds feel separate from Hashem, the world of Bria is the world of creation, the world of Yitzir is the world of formation, the world of Asi is the world of action. And what are the 10 attributes? The first three are Gimel Aleph.
Well, the first attributes, they're the intellect, Chachma, Bina, and Das.
Das.
Yes.
Very good. Wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. The lower 7 are the emotion attributes, which are
Well, you have Hesed, Gevurah, Tiferet,
kindness, strictness, and mercy. Go ahead.
Netzach, Chod, and Yesod.
Victory, glory, and foundation.
And then the last would be Malchut.
Malchus means royalty or kingship. Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet, kindness, justice, and beauty, they're the feelings in the heart. But Netzach, Chod, and Yesod, victory, glory, and foundation are the emotion attributes which bring the feelings into revelation. How? Through Malchus, which in general embodies thought, speech, and action. So you have the pure intellect, then you have the feelings that are generated by the intellect, and then you have how those feelings are given over to thought and speech. So that when Hashem says, let there be light, that's godly speech. He is expressing the feeling of kindness. And by the same and the somewhat connected token, there are two metaphors of how Hashem dresses himself in order to relate to us, and in turn allowing us to relate to him. Now, I'm assuming that the Haftorah for this week is my chair is the heavens, and my footstool is the earth. I think that's Kisei.
Shemaim Kisi.
Yeah, I think that must be the this week what we're going to read in Shul after the Torah. So first of all, Hashem doesn't have any shape of a body. So how does he have a chair and how does he have a footstool? And second of all, he says, the heaven is my chair and the earth is my footstool. What kind of a house can you build for me? The human image, like the supernal man on the throne in the heavens, and which the prophets see, and Chassidus explains that even though Hashem has no body and no likeness of a body, when we speak about Hashem's right arm, it is a metaphor for its attribute of kindness. When we mention the brain of Hashem, of the supernal man, it's a metaphor for how the ungraspable, unknowable one dresses himself in the attribute of divine wisdom. Why? In order that we should be able to connect with divinity, because we have wisdom. And by realizing our own wisdom, they can realize that Hashem has wisdom and understand how to do his will in making this world a dwelling place for Hashem. Hashem wants to come here and live with us. And in this way, since we have an attribute of kindness and an attribute of intellect, then from my flesh I will know God. So the one metaphor of how Hashem connects to us is of a man. And the second metaphor is the metaphor of names. The name Kel represents the divine attribute of kindness. Well, the name Elohim represents the divine attribute of strict justice. So if you call to Hashem by a name that indicates wisdom, he emanates wisdom. Like if you say to Hashem, you are wise, then he turns to you in an aspect of wisdom. For example, if one needs a favor, he addresses the one that he petitions. He says, you are such a kind person, because he wants to elicit from that person this attribute of kindness. Hashem himself is essentially removed and ineffable. But at the same time, he commands us to love and fear him, which begs another question. How can love and fear be commanded? You either love the guy or you don't love the guy. So, and the guy says, well, you don't love me, you have to love me. You can't command the person to love someone. But Hashem does not ask the impossible. And he provides a device to enable us to achieve love and fear of him. That device is our power of our mind to understand each to his own ability. The greatness of Hashem, we understand how great Hashem is, then automatically we're going to love him. When one understands Hashem's unity and something of his greatness, his kindness, and his wisdom, one will automatically love him. First, there's a song like that. To know him is to love him, and I do. Now, the commandment to love Hashem through understanding godliness in order to love him is expressed in the famous commandment, Shema Yisrael, listen Israel. Hearing or listening in this context does not mean just listening to the words with the physical ear. It means rather to understand what is being said. As the Rambam teaches, we're to understand. The Rambam wants us to know. Number one, that there is a God. Number two, that he is the first and continuous cause of all that exists. And that this God is one, essentially, and in his emanations and his creation.
So we have a nigga?
Let's do a nigga, boys.
Okay, what are we doing? Gidon,
how about
the sticking that you want
the
to do?
Gidon nigga?
Bring out E, give us an E so we know. E minor, the whole chord.
By the way,
What's Haxton with one?
By the way,
with
Mendel.
one string?
Mendel.
Yeah.
My grandmother showed me some tell. He said, make a E.
E, Macha E.
Goes out of tune. What are we doing?
Ready?
out of the world.
The great Nigan.
It's a great
You
thing.
know why? Because like you don't see the pool, it's a Nigan for Shabbos, and Shabbos takes you out of the boil. So that's why.
I heard from Rabbi Dalton.
You know a rabbi who's a dolphin?
That Reb Joel, somebody asked him one time, what is the davening? He said, davening means prayer. Is the time when you say bye-bye to the world. You go away from the world. That's what he said. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. First, we'll explain the three dynamics of the intellect, called wisdom, chachma, understanding, bina, and knowledge, das. Chachma, which is wisdom, is the light of the idea or the intellectual concept.
Mitzalel, it's great we're learning about the Chacham and Das. I have a little question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Is what's the, like, why are we explaining this? What's the practical application?
What are we
for
getting
this?
at?
Yeah, what are you going to get at? Exactly.
It's a very good
What's the
question.
tachlis?
I think by knowing how our own psychology is, we'll be able to connect to the godly psychology. And through that, we'll be able to know God. That's what Hasidus accomplishes.
So we're connecting us, the lower man, with him, the higher man, or something
It
like
says, when Mashiach comes, in the days of Mashiach, the occupation of the whole world is going to be to know God. And nowadays, we're in the times of the days of Mashiach. This is the time. Our occupation now is to know God.
It's a good job, Mitzalel.
Beautiful.
That's where it can be used.
So Chachma is the idea itself. It's higher than being dressed in words and letters of explanation. Bina, on the other hand, which means understanding, is when the idea is dressed, the intuitive idea is dressed, which is Chachma, into words and letters of explanation. Now, to understand these two functions of the mind, we'll illustrate with the example of seeing something. You asked a question, Mendel. What do I get out of this?
Yeah, what's the practical thing we get?
I'm going to go off of it a little bit, and hopefully it's going to help us to come to an understanding of why we're doing it. The previous Rebbe says that every person asks himself, who am I? One time in his life, he asked himself that question, who am I? And the previous Rebbe says, we also asked ourselves, who are we? And he says, who we are is the Shevet of Chabad Hasidim.
That's interesting. A Shevet is a tribe.
A tribe. That's what he said. We're the tribe of Chabad Hasidim. And everybody who's listening to that show can consider themselves part of the tribe, even if they're not ready to actually admit it. So he says, first, before you can understand that, you need an introduction to know what is Chabad. And what is Chabad is Chachma, Bina, and Das. Now, I'm skipping some levels and some explanation, but it's very interesting. The Rambam says that the spheres in the heavens, meaning the stars and the constellations, know what they are. They know what's above them, and they know what's below them. What's above them is the angels, and what's below them is people. And they know that they have a higher comprehension of people, and they have a lower comprehension of godliness than the angels. So their comprehension of themselves is like what the Rebbe is talking about. Every person asks himself, who am I? And the way he knows who am I is by comparing to who's lower than him and who's higher than him. Now, it says that people, which means human intelligence, is a lower level intelligence than what the stars and the constellations have. They have a higher realization of godliness than we do. But the previous Rebbe says, but nevertheless, they have a higher revelation than human intellect. But we, being a godly soul, have the ability to understand higher than the stars and the constellations, higher than godliness, higher in the level of godliness. And I think particularly doesn't say it through the study of Hasidus. For example, he gives an example. He says, we have to use our godly intelligence to find the source of everything. And he gives an example. One time at the family meal of the Rebbe Rashab, one of the family members was very excited. He said, the scientists just discovered a vein in the brain. Not a vein that carries blood, but a vein that carries some kind of mist. And when that vein is tilted one way, it's to help the concentration. When that vein is tilted the other way, it's to help the remembering. And that's why when a person wants to remember, he puts his head back. When he wants to concentrate, he puts his head down. And he was very excited about it. And the Rebbe Rashab didn't say anything. He waited through the meal. End of the meal, he blessed Hashem for the food. And he told the guy, wait a minute. And he came back with a notebook in handwriting from the Mittler Rebbe, who lived maybe 100 years before that. And that book in handwriting, he showed them 5 or 6 pages that describe this exact thing. That there's this vein by a person which when it goes one way helps to remember, and it goes the other way, it helps to concentrate. So the guy said to the Rebbe Rashab, he said, I knew that the Mittler Rebbe was a very holy man, but I didn't know he was a scientist. The Rebbe Rashab said he wasn't a scientist, but he knew the man on the throne so well and in such detail. But by knowing the brain of the man on the throne, he could tell you how it is in the human brain. So that's what the previous Rebbe says, that we are able to go higher than human intelligence and understand godly intelligence. So wisdom is the idea itself, higher than being dressed in words of letters. For example, when a person sees a beautiful building, you ever saw a beautiful building?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. I saw lots of beautiful buildings.
For the first time, he immediately perceives in his mind that the building is beautiful. Oh, what a building. But the reason why it's beautiful, which is the perfect combination of all of its parts and colors and measurements, has not yet been understood. Because he has not yet distinguished his detail. He can't put the reason for the beauty into words and letters. Because he hasn't measured out the details of the building yet. Therefore, he can't explain why it's beautiful to somebody who hasn't seen it. It's only a flash, it's only a wow. He can't bring it down into words and letters yet. But when he measures and distinguishes all of its particular details, he'll automatically understand the reason why it is beautiful. It has arched windows and beautiful colored tiles and fits beautifully into the landscape. Once he measures out these details, now he's going to know why it's beautiful. It has a lot of palatial rooms. Its size is huge, but it appears as a jewel in the place where it's situated. Its tiles are amazing in color and design, and its windows and turrets are endlessly fascinating. So once he measures out all the details of the building, he can now put it into words and letters and explain why it's beautiful. So having realized the details of its architecture, they'll be able to explain to another person in words and letters why the building is beautiful. But when he first sees the building, even though he realizes right away that the building is beautiful, which is higher than letters of explaining why, he is only experiencing it in a general way. He hasn't measured out the details yet. Higher than words of letters. Therefore, he'll not be able to explain why it's beautiful to another person until he measures out all the details. Now he can explain why it's beautiful. Even though he's right in the first place, it is a beautiful building. But he couldn't explain why, because he couldn't put it in the words and letters. Why couldn't he put it in words and letters, Gimel Aleph?
Why? Because he only has it with the chokhmah, not with the bina.
Because he only saw the intuitive flash of the Chachma without measuring out the details, right, Gidon? Are you okay with that?
I guess so.
Now, the realization of the essence of the beauty, when he first sees the building, that illustrates the intellectual level of Chachma, wisdom. The idea itself higher than words and letters of explanation. So the building is a metaphor for the flash of Chachma, for the flash of wisdom, which flashes into the brain. And you understand right away it's a real wisdom. But why it is a wisdom, you can't explain yet. But the understanding of the reason of why the building is beautiful is not the essence of the beauty. It's only why it's beautiful. It's not the essence of the beauty you see, but only the explanation of why it's beautiful. And this explanation then is only a garment for the essence of the beauty. The same way that any explanation of an idea is only a garment through which to communicate the idea, but it's not the essence of the idea. Are you okay with it, Gidon?
I mean,
The explanation is not the essence of the idea.
Yeah.
It's only the words and letters that are a garment for the idea itself.
So it's like when I explain to
Gidon
somebody,
is masking.
when I explain to somebody about
not
this
that means
building,
Mahaskama, but yes.
when I
agree.
explain to somebody about this building, I'm giving him voids and explanations about its beauty. But my voids and explanations is not the
Ain't the
beauty.
beauty
The
itself.
beauty is the beauty, and I'm just explaining it.
Right.
But it's a garment that you can explain to me.
Now, this why of the beauty, the understanding of why the building is beautiful, through distinguishing its particular details, becomes a garment for the essence of the beauty. The essence of the beauty illustrates Chachma, and the explanation of why the building is beautiful is a garment that communicates an understanding of the essence of the beauty in words and letters, which illustrates the intellectual dynamic of Bina, of understanding. And the example of the building describes Chachma and Bina in the realm of the world of action. You have the Beis HaMikdash boogie, Shabbat Beis HaMikdash
Yeah,
boogie.
we should do the with the how we start this one with the
Let's start.
yeah.
First the heroes.
won't you come back to town? And please return with your people. Oh, Tati, our king, won't you do a good thing? Unless you please return with your people.
Like they say in a Via land, yeehaw!
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
If you don't make a fiddle, I think the fiddle's on fire. You need to put it on. You need to hear some water. Put some seltzer on it. By the way, I want to say also hi to all our friends watching, Omek, Cadison, and all of our friends are watching. It's good to see you all, and we're so excited and glad that you come to join us every week, and so that we can all together, we can all bring Mashiach now.
Amen.
That was like an main sneeze, man.
That was,
Like
that was something else.
Hey.
That's an attack. We want Mashiach.
Amen.
Now, how are we doing? Like, are we getting to some kind of time?
Oh, so
How about should we have a
time? What's time?
Should we have what do you call it from the Gimel Aleph, appeal?
Oh, yeah, we can do that. We can do that. 1 second, I'll do that. Okay. Well, here's what I want to tell you. What I want to tell you is, Rosh Hashanah coming up. It's now going to be Shabbos Mevorchim Elul. The Shabbos before Elul means we're already bringing in the Yom Tov of Elul. We're bringing the month of Elul as we're getting ready to approach. As we're getting ready to approach Rosh Hashanah. And let me tell you, Chavre, Rosh Hashanah is such an important day. But if you're waiting till Rosh Hashanah, you're a little too late. You forgot to get in line first. In other words, right now it's coming a month. The king is in the field. The king in the field, it means, the problem is people try too much sometimes to think of something, to take what's real and make it too abstract. Oh, what means the king in the field? That Hashem means? It means the king is in the field. Hashem is right here coming down, and you can ask him to help you. We want to do better.
Where we are on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And he's coming out in the field and to talk to us. And people say, oh, but how do you talk to him? Like, how do you talk to me? You look in my face and you say, Gimel Aleph, I want to tell you something. So Chaim, let me tell you, this is how you talk to the Eibishter. Just open your mouth. You see, that's why Hashem gave you a mouth. Open it, and say, Hashem, I know you were out here in the field with me, and you know, Eibishter, I'm so happy you're here because you're so nice and I love you so much. But now that you're here also, and maybe I can ask you a few things, maybe to send help to my bubby because I'm only 3,000 years old. My bubby is 5,000 years old, and she's it's a little hard for her to walk nowadays, like it used to be. And my kids, I want they should give nachas and they should have an easy time, and we should have parnasa, and maybe I want to make myself a little better. Maybe you can help me because it's hard for me. This is just open your mouth and talk from your heart to the Eibishter. He understands English. He created it. Don't worry. You can talk English. You can talk to him in French. You can talk to him in Italian. Okay, well, let's not push it. But no, just kidding. You can talk to him also in Italian. Talk to the Eibishter just like you talk to you, because the Eibishter is our tati. Just like you'll talk to your tati, open your mouth and talk to the Eibishter and ask him to help you in all the things you need. That's what it means. So, Chaver, I hope you'll join us, all of us getting ready for Rosh Hashanah, the time when we bring down the new life force for the new year. May it be a year of Mashiach Tzidkenu.
Amen.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Gidon, Zog.
I think that now that you're bringing up, El Teshuvah, you should sing a niggun that's maybe connected to that.
Ooh.
Let's do it.
So,
What's a good nigga for
Hashem
Teshuvah?
Aloch.
He doesn't know that one. The Flagi only knows what's a good tune?
Vahavi Yossi, Hakachi, you have Mancha, you have.
What about,
How about Avinu Malkeinu?
wait, what about that? Well, that's Tati Arti.
Yeah,
What about that
but I mean
song?
the actual
What about the
Rebbe
song that
Malkeinu.
Leib sings? Happy, the one
If
who's,
you're happy, if you know it.
the one who's,
Return to
Oh, Ashley Michel.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Come on,
Let's
man.
do it.
Oh,
Let's
no,
do that.
it's Dark Chalukenu.
That's a good
that's
trick.
Oh,
No, that one. Give me an E. That's
Very
a
nice. I can't, how do you follow one like that? Only with,
Yeah, give us, where's the G?
sign
Where's
off.
the G? Yes,